Nobody should go to any war. If they should rig the election, we will declare all the seats vacant.
Someone walked into an incredible office on a Tuesday morning at exactly 10 o'clock. There was no reason to expect anything unusual. Primaries were running across the country. Constituencies were processing candidates. Party members were casting votes. Results were being collated. It was supposed to be an ordinary day in Nigeria's political calendar. But what that person found at those INEC premises was not ordinary. NDC officials at an INEC office on primary election day, and the moment a camera was raised in their direction, they ran. Not walked away, not calmly gathered their things and left the premises, they ran. Here on Afrisight Forum, we do not deal in assumptions. We deal in what is observable, what is documented, and what the evidence compels us to conclude. And what the evidence compels us to conclude today is this: you do not run from a camera at an INEC office on the day your own party is conducting primaries across Nigeria, unless you are fully aware that your reason for being there cannot survive public scrutiny. That same day, inside one constituency, on camera, from the mouth of an actual NDC party member, came a direct accusation, non-members being mobilized and brought in, people being photographed, existing membership cards being edited, different names, different photographs, same fraudulent infrastructure, ghost voters being manufactured to determine who receives the primary ticket. And here is the detail that makes this story impossible to look away from. All of this happened on the same day that NDC produced the most remarkable primary turnout any new political party in Nigeria has generated in living memory. The crowd came, the fraud came too, same party, same day. Welcome to Afrisight Forum. You are watching Afrisight Forum, your home for rigorous, fearless analysis of Nigerian and African political affairs. We go where the story leads. We name what others choose to manage quietly, and we hold power accountable regardless of which direction that accountability points. If you are joining us for the first time, subscribe now and activate your notification bell. This channel does not slow down, and you cannot afford to miss what is coming. Today's broadcast covers both dimensions of the NDC primary story. We examine the historic crowds that are reshaping Nigeria's political landscape, and we examine the fraud operation that threatens to collapse everything those crowds represent. We will break down the INEC confrontation, analyze the fake membership card operation, revisit the Labour Party precedent in specific and uncomfortable detail, and present a question to NDC leadership that demands a direct answer before February 2027. Stay with us to the final segment. What we place before you at the close of this broadcast has no comfortable answer, and the people running this party need to hear it. Segment 1, the historic crowds, real energy, borrowed loyalty. Let us begin with what is beyond dispute. NDC House of Representatives primaries ran across Nigeria this week, and the participation levels exceeded what anyone, including senior figures inside the party, anticipated at this point in its development. Nasarawa, Delta, Anambra, Lagos, Kano, Enugu. Constituency by constituency, across geopolitical zones and demographic lines, Nigerians turned out to engage with the internal democratic process of a party that did not exist in its current form 2 years ago. This is historically significant, not as flattery, but as political fact. No new party operating within Nigeria's post-1999 democratic framework has produced this volume of organic, grassroots primary participation this far from a general election. When ADC conducted its primaries, the national conversation barely registered. When NDC conducted its primaries, every major platform was saturated for the entire day. The numbers were not manufactured. The energy was not staged. People came. But Afrisight Forum must tell you something that NDC leadership needs to hear more urgently than anyone else watching this broadcast. The people who filled those venues did not come for the new Democratic Congress. They came for Peter Obi. The movement that has organized itself around his candidacy, the active citizens, the young Nigerians, the members of the obedient family who have decided that 2027 represents a genuine opportunity for political change. These are not institutional party loyalists. They are individual loyalists who are currently inside this party because the individual they believe in is currently inside this party. That distinction carries enormous consequences. It means the crowd NDC is celebrating is borrowed, not owned. It means NDC's responsibility is not to ride the wave. It is to prove, through every decision made between now and February 2027, that it deserves the wave. And it means every wrong candidate given a ticket, every anointed insider placed over a qualified grassroots candidate, every desperate operator permitted to influence the selection process, moves NDC measurably closer to the moment the crowd quietly decides to stay home. The crowd is not NDC's greatest asset right now. It is NDC's greatest vulnerability, because a crowd of that scale, carrying that level of belief, creates a dangerous illusion, the illusion that momentum is self-sustaining, that individual candidate quality becomes irrelevant when the wave is large enough, that the errors of today can be corrected after the election. They cannot, they never could, and a party that governed by that illusion before NDC existed has already provided the evidence. Segment 2, the fraud operation, the signal NDC cannot ignore. Now we turn to what was unfolding on the other side of that same day. A citizen documented NDC officials at INEC premises during the primaries. The camera went up. They ran. The INEC electoral officer on duty offered a technical defense that presence at INEC premises does not constitute evidence of wrongdoing, that INEC does not administer party primaries, that individuals have various legitimate reasons to visit INEC on any given day. Every element of that defense is legally accurate. And every element of that defense is precisely the kind of statement you construct when you need to create sufficient technical distance between what was visibly observed and what was actually taking place. Because here is what that defense cannot explain: why they ran. Innocent people present at a government office for legitimate purposes do not run from cameras. They do not need to. Running is the behavior of someone who has already conducted the internal calculation and concluded that the truth, if it surfaces, is indefensible. And then, from inside one constituency on that same day, came testimony that NDC cannot dismiss as opposition propaganda. A party member, not a critic, not a rival. Not a government agent stood at the primary and named what they personally witnessed. Non-members being brought in and photographed. Membership cards being digitally edited. Fabricated identities being inserted into the party register to manipulate the outcome of candidate selection. Ghost voters inside NDC at the primaries. This is the signal, and Afrisight Forum will state it plainly. The fraud that dismantled Labour Party from the inside did not begin on the day of the 2023 general election. It began at the primaries. It began when people operating without integrity were permitted to participate in candidate selection without accountability. It began when the wrong individuals received tickets through manipulation rather than merit. And by the time polling day arrived, the rot was already structural, invisible to the crowd outside, fatal to the movement from within. NDC is standing at that exact junction today. Segment 3, the Labour Party precedent, a documented, repeatable pattern. We are precise on this program. The Labour Party comparison is not a general warning about political complacency. It is a specific, documented sequence with named consequences. People rode the Labour Party wave in 2023 into the House of Representatives. Some of them had no political standing before that wave appeared. The movement carried them. And once they were seated, once the salary, the allowances, the access to procurement, the phone calls from the powerful, the full visible infrastructure of legislative influence became real and tangible, they did what people who board movements for personal benefit always do. They calculated their options, and they defected to the APC. It was shameless, but from their perspective, it was entirely rational because they were never there for Labour Party. They were never there for the 25 million Nigerians who voted and believed. They were there for the asterisk position. Once the position was delivered, the vehicle that delivered it became irrelevant to their interests. Those are the people NDC must identify and deny the ticket. Now, before the general election, before confirmation of seats, before the defection becomes next year's news cycle. The screening process is not complicated, but it demands courage and consistency to apply honestly. Examine the record, not the current positioning. Anyone can perform commitment when a wave is building and a ticket is valuable. Examine what a candidate said and did when there was no political benefit attached to saying or doing it. Examine whether they spoke publicly when speaking publicly carried personal consequences. Examine whether their consistency held when being consistent cost them something. Femi Salako earned attention this week for precisely this reason. He operates from the southwest, the core of Tinubu's political territory. He spoke critically against this administration when doing so from the southwest invited coordinated attacks on his livelihood, his reputation, and his standing within his own region. He did not recalibrate his position to manage the pressure. He remained consistent when consistency was costly. That is a record. That record is what justifies a ticket. That standard, not connection, not institutional loyalty, not proximity to party leadership, is the filter NDC must apply everywhere and without compromise. Segment 4, the FCT Senate wound, still open, still bleeding. There is something this broadcast must address directly because it is not receiving the attention it deserves in the broader conversation about NDC's internal integrity. Maimuna Aisha represented exactly the profile of candidate this movement claims to be building toward: documented commitment, a record of public advocacy that predated the political season, a profile that embodied, in practical terms, the values NDC publicly espouses as its foundation. She did not receive the FCT Senate ticket. A consensus process conducted in ways that did not reflect transparency or public accountability removed that possibility. That decision has not been forgotten by NDC supporters in the Federal Capital Territory. It sits in the public record, visible to everyone who is watching how this party actually makes its most consequential choices when the cameras are not pointed at a podium. And when a party talks consistently about integrity as its defining principle, then its actual selection process contradicts that principle in full public view. That contradiction does not dissolve with time. It compounds. NDC leadership has a narrowing opportunity to demonstrate through every ticket issued from this point forward that the FCT Senate decision represented a failure in the process, not the operating philosophy of the party. Every subsequent wrong candidate issued a ticket confirms the latter. Every right candidate earns back a fraction of the credibility that decision cost. Segment 5, what these seats actually demand. Let us name precisely what Nigeria requires from the individuals who receive NDC tickets in this election cycle. Not personalities of the online movement, not individuals whose primary qualification is visibility on social media platforms, not candidates whose loyalty to the NDC structure is their central selling point. Nigeria requires people who will walk into the National Assembly and make their presence consequential, even as a minority bloc of 20 among 460. People who will stand and ask the questions that the comfortable, well-connected, institutionally managed members of that chamber have spent their careers engineering ways to avoid. People who will speak truth to power from inside the building where power is exercised, without first consulting their personal cost-benefit analysis. The fake membership cards documented in that constituency this week are not a peripheral irregularity. They are a clear and specific signal. The operators who hollow out every political movement from the inside have already located NDC. They are already working within it. They are already attempting to determine who sits in those seats. The question before NDC leadership is not whether these operators exist within the party. They demonstrably do. The question is whether the leadership acts with sufficient speed and decisiveness to remove their influence before the tickets are issued and the consequences become permanent. Because the mathematics are not forgiving, every unqualified candidate given an NDC ticket is a vote this party will not collect in February 2027, not as a threat issued by the movement, as an arithmetic certainty. The crowd came because of what NDC committed to represent. That crowd will not mobilize for what NDC actually delivers if what it delivers is another intake of self-serving politicians who wore the movement as a campaign costume and shed it the moment the position was secured. Segment 6, the full picture. Here is where the record stands. NDC primaries produced historic crowds across Nigeria. The participation is real. The geographic spread is unprecedented for a party at this developmental stage. The driving force behind it is Peter Obi, not the party institution. NDC officials were documented at INEC premises on primary election day and fled from a camera. The technical defense offered does not account for the flight. Fake membership cards were reportedly fabricated in at least one constituency, reported not by political opponents, but by an NDC member on camera at the primary itself. The people who systematically erode political movements from within have already embedded themselves inside NDC and are already operating. The Labour Party sequence, primaries, wrong tickets, personal defections, movement collapse, is not a distant cautionary tale. It is a live template currently in its early stages within NDC. The standard that will determine whether this movement survives its own success is singular and non-negotiable. What did this candidate say and do when it cost them something to say and do it? What does the record that existed before this wave made the ticket worth having actually show? Closing, the question NDC cannot answer comfortably. Afrisight Forum puts this directly to every person watching this broadcast. If NDC fields a candidate in your constituency, someone without a verifiable record, without a documented history of speaking truthfully when truth carried a personal cost, someone who appeared committed to the movement only after the movement became politically valuable, will you still vote for that candidate because Peter Obi heads the ballot? Yes or no? Give us your answer in the comments right now. We read every response on this channel. The crowd came, the fraud came. Both arrived on the same day, inside the same party, in the same Nigeria. The crowd belongs to Peter Obi and to the millions of Nigerians who have chosen, once more, to invest their belief in the possibility of genuine political change in this country. The fraud belongs to those who have always been present when waves build, who board every movement, collect every benefit, deliver nothing of substance, and leave the vehicle broken when they are done with it. NDC's one irreducible obligation between now and February 2027 is to keep those people away from the tickets, because the crowd that came borrowed, energized, and entirely capable of disappearing will not show up for what those operators become once they are seated, salaried, and no longer accountable to the movement that carried them in. The standard is integrity. The standard is record. The standard is what a person said and stood for when saying and standing cost them something real. Every ticket issued between now and the general election is a statement about what NDC actually is beneath the crowd and the momentum. February 2027 will read every one of those statements clearly. Make every ticket count. This is Afrisight Forum. We follow the power. We analyze the facts. We tell the stories that those in authority hope never reach you, because the truth of what is happening in Nigeria belongs to the Nigerian people. If this analysis informed your understanding, share this broadcast immediately. Subscribe if you have not already done so. Our next production is already in progress, and it concerns developments that will reshape this conversation entirely.